That'd be fine. I'll just do it.
This page up and down.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lacefield. It's great to be here. Thank you to Dow for having the symposium. This is one of the greatest things at the conference as far as I'm concerned. It's a true honor for me to be here. I love talking about hay, and this is what I get to do, so this is really, really great. My name is Clayton Geralds. I'm from Mumfordville, Kentucky. I'm a commercial hay producer. My farm is in Hart County, Kentucky, which is in central Kentucky. It's right on Interstate 65. We grow about 560 acres of alfalfa and alfalfa orchard grass mix. We grow about 160 acres of grass hay, which is primarily timothy and orchard grass. We bale small square bales for the horse market. In 2013, we got 106,000 bales baled dry, so that was pretty good for us for that year. Dr. Lacefield's asked me to come up here and talk about 5 important forage aspects of my operation that makes a profit. Well, I had to kind of turn that around a little bit to suit myself, so I said, okay, this is 5 things that I got to have, 5 things I can't do without, 5 things that are important to me. And they're different than what every one of y'all are suspecting. This is going to be a surprise. It was to me when I started thinking about all this and thinking about what I had to have and what I just wanted. So the 5 things in my operation that I can't do without are my customers, my record keeping, my equipment, technology, and my people, my family, the people that does the work on our farm. So we're going to start out with the customers. Now if you're a beef cow, cow-calf operation, it's, as my son is, it's no big deal. On any day of the week except Sunday at our place, you can load up a load of feeder calves, take them to the stockyards, and you'll get a check within a day or 2. That's not a problem. If you're a dairy farmer, which I growed up a dairy farmer, you get a check on the 1st and the 15th. So your customer's not that big a deal. You probably don't talk to him. You probably don't even know him that well. Well, in the commercial hay business, customers are everything. We grow our hay specifically for that customer. When we bale that hay and put it in the barn, we know who's going to buy it. Our customers are super important to us. We gain about 1 customer a year average. We've had customers that have been with us for more than 18 years. So when we get a customer, we aim to keep them. We're going to grow what they want and do what they want. And that's an important part of my operation. Without our customers, it would be impossible for us to do what we do. So we put a lot of emphasis on that. We want to keep our customers. We want to do what they need us to do. And that's important. So one of the most important things in our operation is our customers. Next, our record keeping. Now I stuck one little piece of paper up here. I just struck it out of my notebook from last year. Record keeping is important. I growed up a dairy farmer. We was on DHIA, that's Dairy Herd Improvement Association, and they told us what our herd was doing, and then they told us what each individual cow was doing. And that was important. We know the cows that was making a profit and the cows that wasn't making a profit. Well, as a hay farmer, I said, hey, I need that same thing. We have 23 separate hay fields in our operation. We keep records on each field just like they was a separate cow. We know what the production is of each field, we know what the input cost is of each field, and we know when that field's making a profit or not making a profit. Now in the dairy business, when that cow didn't make a profit, we culled that cow. Well, in our hay business, when that field doesn't make a profit, we rotate it into something else. In our case, we go from alfalfa to timothy or orchard grass for 1 or 2 years and back to alfalfa. But we wouldn't know if that field was making a profit or not if we didn't keep good records. A couple more things that we have in our record keeping system is we have 3 barns that we use primarily to put our hay in. Each barn has the bays that are labeled with a letter and a stack with a number. So when we bale that hay and we put it in that barn, I can look at them records and I can tell you exactly what kind of hay is in every single last spot in each one of my barns. When my customer calls and he wants a load of straight alfalfa, I know which barn, which section, and where it's sitting at. Or if he wants a load of straight orchard grass, or if he wants a load of mixed, or whatever he wants, I know right where it's at. I wouldn't know that without record keeping. It would be hard for me to keep up with 100,000 bales of hay sitting in the barn and know exactly where every one of them was if it wasn't for record keeping. Now one more thing, and I wouldn't even probably thought of this if it wasn't right at the first of the year, but another thing we do in our operation takes about 1 hour a year, maybe an hour and a half if it's a cold day. And what we do is we go out there on January 1st, and every single last piece of equipment we own, we write down the hours on that piece. If it's a truck or something, we write down the miles on it, and we write down the total gallons on our farm fuel tank and our off-farm fuel tank. So then I know exactly how many hours we put on every piece of equipment we got, exactly how many miles we put on every truck we got, and I know how much road fuel we burnt, and I know how much off-road fuel we burnt. Now, all that information over a period of years tells us a lot of things, and I'll tell you what it told me in January 1st of this year. In 2012, Molly's lawnmower got used 46 hours, and in 2016, it got used 98 hours. So she'd either done twice as much mowing in 2013 as she did in 12, or she drove it to town and back a time or two. I'm not sure which. But record keeping is important in our operation. We wouldn't have a clue what to do or how to do it if it wasn't for record keeping. Now, equipment. In these forage conferences that I've been proud to go to for years and years, we hear lots and lots of farmers who don't have any equipment, don't want any equipment. They pasture their cows year-round and everything, and that's great. Thumbs up. Me, I got gobs of equipment. We got barns full of equipment. That's what we have to do our job. And what I think is really, really important about the equipment is the efficiency of it and how it works together, how one piece works with another piece. I'm going to talk about these two cutters for a minute. We was pulling two 13-foot pull-type cutters, and we thought we had the greatest of all things. And we loved them cutters. They done a good job. They was great. And I thought, well, we need to do better. Whatever it is, we got to try to do better. So we switched to one of these for a half a year, and then it went long, and we went on to two of them. But what that's done for me is with my pull-type cutters, we burnt about 1.5 gallons of fuel per acre. And with the two cutters together, we could do about 20 acres an hour. So for 2 man-hours, we could get 20 acres of hay done. Now with these two cutters right here, we're doing 30 acres of hay an hour. So we've cut our labor force by 33% on cutting hay. And we're burning about 1 gallon of fuel per acre. So we've cut our fuel consumption by 33%. In an average year, we cut about 2,700 acres of hay, and I'm going to go through this real quick. It saves us about $1,600 a year in fuel just cutting hay, switching from the pull-type cutters to these self-propelled cutters. So that's a big deal. Equipment. It makes us a profit if we use the right equipment in the right time at the right way. You'll see these cutters right here. There's about 8 foot of hay in a swath, and it's about an 8-foot gap. So they cut 16 foot 10 inches, so we got 8 foot of hay, an 8 foot gap, and 8 foot of hay. Now our tedder, which matches our cutting equipment, is a 26 foot tedder. So I'm going to take me a 26 foot tedder and I'm going to tedder 32 foot of hay. That's pretty cool. That's efficiency. Our rakes are 28 foot. It's the same thing. We can take 2 of them swaths off that cutter, put them together, have one large windrow that we're actually putting 32 foot of hay in a windrow on ground that didn't have hay on it previously. So that equipment has to work together. It's a big deal for us. We pay attention to what we buy, when we buy it, and how it fits each other. So our equipment is important. You start talking about small square bales, 106,000 small square bales. People just break out in hives. How in the world are you going to handle that many bales of hay? We handle it with equipment. Again, the same thing. Without this equipment, we would no way be able to do what we do. These machines right here will pick up easy 500 bales an hour and put them in the barn. We had a big field of Timothy this year that was real close to the barn, one of our better fields. And I was feeling good that day, I guess, or whatever, but I was paying attention, and I was picking up 160 bales every 13 minutes and stacking in that barn. I done that consistently for 10 or 12 loads. That's not always that good, but everything was going good that day, so the equipment worked well. We also, in the picture you've seen with the customers, we have a way to load this hay out and put it in our van trailers without touching them again. So we can handle this hay, we can handle it efficiently, we can handle it with very low labor if we have the right equipment. All right, now technology. I'm going to run through this pretty quick. I could talk about this for the next 3 hours, but I'm going to hit it pretty fast. First thing I want to talk about is Roundup Ready alfalfa. The seed costs a lot extra. I won't argue with that. I can tell you how I can pay for the extra money in seed in only 3 months. In 3 months. And that's providing I want to keep my hay weed free, which I do. So that technology is great. That stand's going to last me 6 or 7 years, and it's paid for itself in the first 3 months. That's great. That's awesome technology. Another part of technology, we grow late maturing orchard grass. That's what we mix with our alfalfa. All the orchard grass we've bought for the last 8 years has been late maturing orchard grass. That's good technology, a good seed variety. Now, I didn't really realize how great that was till this year. We had a rough spring. It was a lot of rain, and we was late, and we wasn't out there, and I was getting all nervous and tore up. It was May the 14th where we cut our first field of hay. Well, before we even got into our first cutting very much, the orchard grass was already starting to head out a little bit, which is rare for me. Most of the time I can get almost all my first cutting done before it really ever heads out by using that late maturing orchard grass. Well, it was the end of May before we got through all that first cutting. And every bit of our orchard grass was cut and put up at a pretty decent quality. Now, it did have some heads in it. Well, I had a couple of neighbors, and I have to go with them because I don't have any orchard grass that's not late maturing. But at the same time I was cutting the end of my first cutting, they was cutting the end of their first cutting. Well, their orchard grass had already turned brown. It already started pollinating. It was bad. They had to roll their hay, and they made beef cow hay. My hay was still square-beled, and it was still sold to horse people. So they were selling their hay for about $30 a ton, and I was selling mine for $250 a ton. That was probably, in round numbers, $100,000 I made this spring by simply having late maturing orchard grass. I couldn't do without that. I would not exist without things like that. More technology. This is a new spray we bought this year. It's great. It's wonderful. It turns its own booms on and off. It puts the exact right gallons per acre on every acre, and this thing even steers itself. Now, the first field I sprayed with this field was a pretty nice field. I didn't want to get the hang of it on a crappy field, so I was in a pretty nice field. It's a 40-acre field. I went around it one time, and I was going back and forth, and I hit all the right buttons and everything, and it's going down across that field at 10 miles an hour, putting the exact right stuff on, steering itself, and I wasn't doing anything. I picked my phone up and called Molly, and I said, "Guess what I'm doing?" She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm spraying, and I ain't doing nothing. I'm just sitting here watching it all work." That's great. I thought I was a good driver until I got this thing that steered itself. I just give up. You know, I can't even get close to what this thing can do. Technology is great. It makes it where we can do what we do and do it right. People, family. I get asked a whole lot of times, how much hay can you grow? How many acres of hay can you grow? How many bales of hay can you put up in 1 year? I'll flat tell you, there's gobs and gobs and gobs of acres out there that we could buy or lease. They build balers and tractors every day. Them numbers are unlimited. The limiting thing in our operation is people. I'll tell you flat out, it's totally impossible to put up top quality hay without top quality people. And my guys are the best. They've been doing the same thing for a long time. They know what they're doing, how to do it, when to do it, and where to do it, and all that. It would be impossible for me to do anything close to what I do without the people in my operation. The people that works for us and our family. Now, one more thing I'm going to say before I go. This is my family. This is my son and my daughter-in-law and their 2 granddaughters, and my daughter and her husband. And my daughter is our youngest child. She's 24 years old, and she's due with her first youngin', our 3rd grandchild, today. So if me and Molly jump up and take off, y'all know what happened. I promised her we wasn't that far away from home, that we could get back home in plenty of time, that the doctors would take care of it until we got there. So with that, I'll finish, and thank you very, very much.
Folks, if you would, just write down your questions. I'm going to hold the questions for the panel until we finish, and then we'll put everybody up here and do that. Moving on now, changing just a little bit, going a little farther east and changing enterprises. We're going to look at the beef industry. One of the leading AFGC members, board members, past Ford spokesman winner from Virginia, Robert Shoemaker, is going to come up now and talk to us about his operation growing beef cattle.